Hello, welcome to Think Tank Television. I'm Erin Johnson, and today we have as our guest Justin Evans. He's one of the Whitman Town Selectmen. Hello, Justin.
Hey, Erin, how's it going?
Good. Haven't seen you in a while. It's so good to see you.
Yeah, it's been a bit.
Mhm. So I thought we could talk about the upcoming special election and the things that are on it. I had a question though. We're going to talk about a few issues today. The the new school and the DPW and and Hunter Farms. So my question is, are all three of those things on the upcoming warrant for town meeting? Yeah.
So they are all indirectly on the upcoming warrant. Hornstra Farms is not on there directly, but there is an article that may get us some money in the future to help with that property.
Okay. All right. So I don't know. Can we start with that? What exactly are we doing with Hornstra Farms? Because it was bought by them, right? So how is it? I mean, how is it affecting the town overall? I guess that's what I mean.
Yeah, so the farm property at Peaceful Meadows was sold at auction, and the successful bidder, who has now closed the deal since the auction, is John Hornstra of Hornstra Farms in Norwell.
Hmm.
His intent is to pursue a dairy farm, a working dairy farm in Whitman, just like he operates in Norwell. So it would be nice to see cows back here. But he did approach the town to see if we'd be interested in. We may have approached him on this one to see if there might be mutual interest in purchasing a conservation restriction on the land. And what
Hmm.
that basically means is buying the development rights. So that if he were to sell the land in the future, it couldn't be sold to be developed into houses, condos, anything other than agriculture or open space. So the town would effectively have to pay for the loss in resale value. But if this were ever to go to auction again, we wouldn't be put through this stressful couple of weeks where we're not sure what's going to happen to the only farm left in town.
Yeah, I see. So that's the spirit of it. That way there'll still be farmland in town.
Exactly, yeah. So we can preserve the last working farm in Whitman. And sort of along that train of thought, there are state grants open to towns that are right to farm communities. And so
Hmm.
at this special town meeting, we have an article for Whitman to become a right to farm town. So
Okay, that's
we
nice.
might be able to get state money to purchase a conservation restriction on the farm. But to do that, we have to show that we're friendly to agriculture. So this is one of the first steps.
Okay. Oh, good luck with that. So
Yeah.
how should people vote? How will people be voting? Yeah, how does a yes or no vote work that way then?
So it's a yes or no vote to amend the town's general bylaws to include a right to farm bylaw. And so it
Okay,
is, your personal property, you have the right to grow your own food on it. Um,
that's very nice. Okay,
yeah.
all right. So have we covered that enough?
Yeah, so that was kind of what I wanted to mention there. It's the special town meeting has 15 articles. That's one of them. The big one is obviously the middle school and a couple for transferring money for the DPW building. If you want to get into, there's some smaller ones where the town has an opportunity to take advantage of grants for municipal fiber build out or a brush truck for the fire department, radio purchase for the fire department. So it's just making sure we have the matching funds available to take advantage of those grants when they get here. So it's a lot of, generally it's you have to pay 75 to 90, or the grant will cover 75 to 90% of the cost, but they need a town contribution as well. And so this is how we
Mhm.
get that town contribution ready.
So that's good. That you look out for those grants. I mean, is that something that you have to search for a lot, or does the state notify you when they're available?
This actually, all of these are coming from the department heads themselves. We're
Oh.
pretty lucky that our department heads know where to look. Some of their, the Fire Chiefs Association will kind of blast out. These are the available FEMA grants or,
Hmm.
whatever large government organizations giving out money for this kind of thing.
Okay, that's good. Now what about the school? I know that's the big one, and where would it be located if they
So the
if
school
they
is the big
actually go
one.
ahead and start it? Yeah.
Yeah, if I can go back even to 2019, right before I was elected to the board for my first term, the
Yeah.
town expressed a statement of interest to the Massachusetts School Building Authority where
Mhm.
we basically said that, yes, the town supports the schools pursuing this project. We believe the middle school needs to be renovated or replaced. And so back in 2019, we got in the pipeline. COVID delayed things a little bit, but we got the building committee up and running. And they worked through the process of where to put the building. Is it a new building or is it a renovation? What does it look like? What grades are included because it's a middle school? Does it have amenities like an auditorium, which Whitman Middle doesn't have, but Hanson Middle does? Uh,
Interesting,
so,
okay.
so we worked through, the building committee worked through that process for a couple of years, landed on a design of a 3-story, 5 through 8 middle school with an auditorium. It met the balance between cost effective and meeting the educational requirements of what they were looking for, what that committee was looking for. So the plan is kind of like the same way the high school was built, to build it on the fields, the soccer fields behind it, build a new school, let the existing school continue to work while construction's going on. And then when you open the new building, knock the old one down and replace the fields that you took over with the school. So it'll be kind of
Okay.
flipping the property.
Okay, and that sounds nice. And so you said they may have an auditorium. I was thinking about any new construction or measures they took in terms of security in light of the fact that, unfortunately they've had violence in the schools. And I didn't know whether or not there are new regulations that affect what they have to have in the building now.
Yeah, so I know that for new school buildings, just about any school built since Columbine in 1999 have additional security checkpoints, vestibules between the. If you notice, just about any new school that's built, even the high school was built after Columbine. From the main entrance, you go through this entryway with the main office attached to it, and there's someone to admit you to the building. So there's the sort of outside agitator checkpoint there. That's become the standard for school construction, as far as I know, nationwide. And then a couple of years ago, I think about 10 years ago, Whitman added those to the other schools. So the middle school, actually, since I graduated from Whitman Hanson in 2008, the middle school has added that sort of entryway vestibule thing attached to the main office. So it is, security has been a big concern, particularly in the last couple of years with schools.
Okay. And is it, I mean, I guess it would be a pretty big budget. How much will it affect taxpayers to actually build a new school?
And so that's the question. So after the last town election, I got to join the building committee when a vacancy opened up. So, and that was when we got the final numbers. The total school project is currently estimated to be $135 million. So a big expense, with 89 million being the town share and whatever the balance of that is, 36 million being the state contribution. There were a lot of costs that, we're eligible for a maximum reimbursement of up to 63% of eligible costs. But as I said before, things like adding an auditorium is an ineligible cost because the existing middle school has a cafetorium. So they would reimburse us if we were to replicate a cafetorium. But if you're adding new amenities, they won't pay for that. Some other things like expanding the size of the gym. Our current gym is actually quite large for middle school. We wanted to keep that more for town athletics even than for gym class, but to kind of keep that same larger basketball court with additional bleachers that pull out of the wall, it adds to the ineligible costs. So things like that kept creeping the project cost up until it got to $89 million as the taxpayer share. If we were to bond that as a 30-year building project, to get into the weeds a little bit, we usually bond building projects with a level principal bond, which just means that you pay the same amount of principal on the debt every year. You take the $89 million divided by 30. That's what you pay every year on the debt. And you pay the interest that's accrued each year. So the first year payment for the average homeowner, a $420,000 home in Whitman, first year payment would be about $1,500. And that would decline down to about, I think it's $700, $600 or $800 in the last year, in the 30th year. So the average of those 30 years is $1,100 per year,
An
which
increase from what they're paying
of an
right
increase
now?
on the property taxes. It's about a 24% increase on your property taxes. It is it's a large increase compared to just about any project we've done. I think compared to any project we've done in the town. And as you might imagine, it is not
You know,
the best time to it's not the best time to borrow money. Interest rates are pretty high. It's also not a great time
yeah.
for building projects, but we do know that the need is there. The current middle school, we've had a couple of emergency repairs for mold in the last, I think we've had 2 in the last 10 years, where the schools have had to make immediate repairs and seek reimbursement from town meeting down the line. And there's additional things. The roof is nearing end of life. The HVAC systems are nearing end of life. And I mean, those are a couple $1 million equipment replacements for a building that's really outdated.
So I'm guessing this is recommended by the selectmen to town meeting.
I think the selectmen are putting it on the warrant. I don't think they took a vote to recommend this project. They did vote to initiate the project back in 2019. That was before we had any hard numbers. I can say that the capital committee did vote to recommend this project to town meeting.
Okay.
That is typically, so the selectmen will place articles, capital committee will recommend, finance committee will recommend. I don't think the finance committee's voted yet.
So have you heard any opposition to it? Any reason somebody wouldn't want to build it?
The opposition is mostly around the cost. A lot of people are concerned. I mean, $1,500 tax increase that first year for the average home. So if someone owns an above average valued home, they're looking at $2,000 plus that first year additional. The cost can get that it's going to be it's going to be hard for some people to make that. So that's generally where the opposition is coming from. Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially if someone may not have kids in the schools anymore, an older resident living on a fixed income, but living in a larger home, this could be a hard pill to swallow for them.
Yeah. So, but hopefully you'll get the right answer for the town overall.
Yeah. So I mean, all we can do is put this project forward and send it to town meeting and send it to to a ballot vote. So the process for this kind of a project, town meeting needs to appropriate the funds, and then you need to pass a debt exclusion override at the ballot to actually secure the funds to borrow the money.
And when is that election coming up? The one that would be to the ballot?
Sure. So the special town meeting is October 30th. And the ballot vote will be November 4th. The registrars did vote to recommend early vote by mail. And by default, we have absentee voting as well, absentee voting in person or by mail. So there are a couple of ways to vote in this election. There will be no early voting in person unless you are absentee voting in person and have an excuse that you'll be out of town.
Okay. Well, hopefully we get a good turnout. So I guess the other issue that we were going to talk about was, the DPW. So is it strictly, what is that? Is it a new building?
Yeah. So if you've been following along, we actually authorized a new DPW building at the Maytown meeting. So the way this process typically works, we authorized spending up to, I think it was about $18 million. Went out to bid, and then the bids came back above that. In part because we found out that the soil that we're going to build on is contaminated from, 100 years of being right there. So it's the cost to remediate. Once you find contaminated soil, you have to remediate it immediately. You can't just leave it there. So we're stuck in a spot now where the town has to pay to clean up the soil on town land that we probably suspected was contaminated, but never did the analysis to know for sure and then be required to remediate it. So the cost escalated about $3 million, and that's what this vote at town meeting is for. It's to find that $3 million. We're not asking to borrow. We're not asking for another override to borrow more money on the taxpayers. Actually, quite cleverly, we found a way to use ARPA funds to pay down the cost of the concurrent water sewer project, the sewer force main project. And then we'll use the water sewer rate increases that was going to pay for that project to pay for the increased cost of the DPW building. So we'll be able to use federal funds on one project to offset the costs of another.
Good. Okay. I'm sorry. Oh, so so they have to use a piece of property that needs to be cleaned up. Is there any chance they could relocate the building? I'm just wondering. That wasn't one of the questions, but I'm just curious.
We don't own a lot of land in a lot of other places, so I think just purchasing another parcel is probably on par with $3 million of cleanup somewhere else to look at a DPW building. Also, we went out to bid on this project. We've got the quotes. We'd like to sign the lowest bid, responsible contract. And that I think we've already exceeded the 30 days we were supposed to do, but we said, hold tight. We've got a special town meeting. Hopefully we can find the money. Okay,
and hopefully you will. So, okay, is there anything else you'd like to talk about?
I think the question we'll get a lot at town meeting that I can probably try to explain now is, where is the money coming from? So the trick with a fall town meeting, free cash isn't necessarily going to be certified by that time. And so typically with some of these purchases, the town would use free cash, which is, if we over budgeted a line, it gets closed out at the end of the year and goes to free cash. That's usually how we fund our capital projects. But with an October 30th town meeting, that's right around the time we usually have free cash certified. So we got kind of lucky that the school district closed out a lot of old articles and sent it back to the town. But the town administrator did tell the town accountant to not close out those articles on our end yet. We will instead vote to appropriate money for, for example, the radio grant will come from money that had been approved to resurface the track at the high school. And so it's going to be a very confusingly worded article, because we will appropriate, X dollars from the May something 2020 town meeting to resurface the track at the high school, to be spent on $9,000 for radios to, a matching grant. So it's going to read very funny, the motion, but that's because rather than close out those articles to free cash that would probably be certified right around that town meeting, we know we have the money now. If we don't close them out, we can just appropriate the money from the old articles to the new ones.
Good.
So
that's helpful.
It does make it sound like we found a lot of budget tricks for this one fall town meeting between the DPW building and the closing old articles, but it's we're finding ways to not waste money.
Yeah, you used some creativity in finding those solutions. So that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so is there anything else you want to talk to us about?
I'm trying to think what else major is going on in Whitman lately. We've got it has been a very busy couple of years here. Our new town administrator, Mary Beth Carter, has done a phenomenal job. This is only her second town meeting, working up to a special, but she came on board right before the May annual town meeting, hit the ground running, and very happy to see us, continuing to move the ball forward there.
Good.
And I think town hall might be fully staffed right now. We've got a new veteran service officer, new town accountant, new treasurer collector is the old town accountant. So it's a good time to work in town hall.
Okay. Did you say there were some other things you wanted to talk about earlier? I forget now what they were. Some other issues, because you said there are 11 issues on the ballot. I mean, on the warrant, on the town warrant.
Yeah, I know. So with any special town meeting, we try to close out the prior year's bills. So that's one article. Just, if a bill came in after July 1st, you can't pay a fiscal 23 bill in fiscal 24 unless you have a vote at town meeting. So that's like a couple $100. I think it's $1,300 of prior year fiscal bills. And there's a couple of salary adjustments. As I said, we're fully staffed at town hall, but a lot of that came with some negotiating. So, a few department heads, we need to authorize some additional money. The grants, accepting a new road. That's nothing too unusual. Appropriating any excess funds to capital stabilization. Hopefully we will have new growth certified by this town meeting. Again, it's like right in the sweet spot for it might come a couple days before or a couple days after, but we do have a placeholder article to take any new growth above what we projected and appropriate it toward capital stabilization to continue building out our capital plan. But then after that, it's right to farm and then the building projects. So this should be a pretty quick town meeting. I hope all your listeners are available to come out on October 30th and make it to the ballot November 4th.
Okay, yeah, that's great. I was just wondering, is that a lot of articles for a special town meeting? Or is it usually just one?
No, I think once you open up a town meeting, you usually have some housekeeping to take care of. It is difficult to get 100 people in a room to vote all of these. So if there's one bigger article like a middle school that we know will draw a crowd for, we try to take care of as much as possible now rather than put it off to May. I think the last special that we had was actually for the DPW building. It didn't draw a quorum and it had maybe 10 articles. So this is at least recent history. It's the norm.
Okay. So we can just say the dates again. So it's October 30th for the special town meeting.
So Monday, October 30th is the special town meeting. Town meetings always start at 7:30. I have no reason to believe that the special will be any different. And the ballot vote is November 4th. That's a Saturday, as all our town elections are. And that there are, early vote by mail and absentee voting options. So if you're not going to be available on the 4th, you can stop by the clerk's office and pick up a ballot to vote early.
Okay, that sounds great. Are we all wrapped up now for today?
I think so. I think that was that's everything to anticipate for the upcoming special town meeting.
Yes, that was incredibly enlightening, and thank you so much for sharing all that information and educating us about those two meetings that are coming up. I mean, those two votes that are coming up. And I'd like to say to everybody in Whitman and Hanson, thank you so much for watching, and good night.